Today's story is
Prankster dinosaurs. Imani and Elena stood inside the Arizona State Lottery office in Tucson, the air humming with the possibility of a big win. Imani, sporting a massive, perfectly round afro held by a blue headband and a pair of shimmering hoop earrings, checked her ticket. Elena leaned in, her eyes dancing with excitement. "No puedo creer que estemos aquí," Elena whispered, her voice filled with a mix of nerves and thrill. They weren't just looking for money. They were looking for the secret tucked in the back corner of the lobby, just like in file 20,260,630,040,047.jpg. In the corner stood what looked like a regular elevator, but as they approached, the doors slid up like the wings of a DeLorean. Imani stepped in first, her green pants and sneakers squeaking on the metallic floor. Elena followed, her red t-shirt a bright pop against the silver interior. This wasn't a ride to the second floor. It was a gateway to another time entirely. Destination, the past, Imani said, reaching for the sleek, digital panel. June 21st, 1999. High noon, well, 12:30 p.m. to be exact. Elena grinned, gripping the handrail as the elevator began to hum with immense power. They watched the console light up, a scene captured in file 20,260,630,040,054.jpg, as the coordinates for their leap into history were locked into place. The elevator didn't just move, it vibrated until the world outside the glass panel turned into a kaleidoscopic blur of white and gold. The girls felt a strange weightlessness, like they were floating in a sea of pure energy. Elena laughed, her hair whipping around her face. "Es como una montaña rusa," she shouted over the roar of the temporal engines as the timeline began to fold around them. When the doors finally hissed open, they weren't in an office anymore. They were inside a cozy wood-paneled RV parked at 3377 North Kinney Road. Sitting on a small floral-patterned bench was a teenage boy who looked like he had stepped right off a concert stage. Elvis Jr. adjusted his dark sunglasses, his white sequined uniform sparkling under the dim RV lights. "You ladies are late for the show," he said with a cool smirk, as seen in file 20,260,630,040,101.jpg. Suddenly, the roof of the RV rattled with a thunderous boom. Outside, a massive figure descended from the bright Tucson sky. Shaquille O'Neal, looking like a superhero from a comic book, touched down gently on the desert sand using a high-tech silver jetpack. Standing nearby was Francine, Imani's sister, who watched with her jaw dropped. "The big man is in the building," Shaq boomed, his jetpack hissing as it cooled down, exactly like the moment in file 20,260,630,040,109.jpg. Waiting outside were Imani's parents, Patricia and Jack. Both sported magnificent, gigantic afros that mirrored Imani's own style. They waved as the girls stepped out of the RV into the heat of 1999. "You made it just in time for the trip," Patricia called out, her orange dress flowing in the desert breeze. Jack nodded, adjusting his own glasses with a proud smile, happy to see his daughters. Francine finally blinked, a huge grin spreading across her face. Imani walked over and gave her sister a playful nudge. "Relax, Francine, it's just a little time travel," Imani joked. Francine adjusted her earrings and laughed. "This is the coolest thing that has ever happened in this family. I can't believe Shaq just landed in our front yard." The group headed toward the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum, the heat shimmering off the pavement like a liquid dream. Inside, the cool air of the paleontology wing felt like a blessing. They walked past towering glass cases, filled with ancient mysteries. Elena whispered to Imani, "Siento que los huesos nos están mirando." The fossils seemed to hold a secret power waiting to be unlocked. They were joined by Sarah and Susie. They stopped beneath the massive, bleached white ribcage of a prehistoric predator. Imagine being that big, Sarah mused, looking up at the skull of a tyrant king. Sarah and Elena stood in awe of the scale of the past, their silhouettes framed by the giant bones, just like in file 20,260,630,040,116.jpg. Outside on the museum's recreational court, a different kind of battle began. Shaq and Elvis Jr. took to the pavement for a friendly game of basketball. Shaq moved like a force of nature, while Elvis Jr. used surprisingly quick footwork, his white cape fluttering as he tried to defend. It was a sight to behold, a scene captured perfectly in file 20,260,630,040,123.jpg. While the game roared on, Susie, the redhead of the group, wanted to try rockball. She picked up a heavy, smooth desert stone, but the sand was slick under her sneakers. She lost her balance, the rock slipping from her hands. Imani lunged forward to catch her, her hoop earrings swinging wildly. "Gotcha!" Imani cried, but the momentum was too much, as depicted in file 20,260,630,040,130.jpg. The impact sent them both sliding into a strange, jagged rock formation that hadn't been there a moment before. Suddenly, the air around the museum warped, turning a thick neon green. A magical rift tore through the sky, crackling with prehistoric energy. Elena grabbed Francine's hand as the wind picked up. A moment of chaos shown in file 20,260,630,040,137.jpg. Sujetate fuerte, Elena shouted. The transformation happened in a flash of blinding light. Imani felt her body stretch and thicken, her orange shirt merging with skin that was rapidly turning bright orange and scaly. Beside her, Sarah let out a gasp as her blonde hair vanished, replaced by a sleek purple crest. They were no longer teenagers. They were massive, ancient creatures. A transformation captured in file 20,260,630,040,144.jpg. Elena felt the change next, her red t-shirt becoming part of a sleek, crimson hide. She looked at her friend Imani, who was now a magnificent orange dinosaur. Imani, now in her full prehistoric form, looked down at her new claws. The museum was gone, replaced by a dense jungle, a scene mirroring file 20,260,630,040,151.jpg. Imani, mira lo que soy, Elena trumpeted. Sarah and Susie had changed too. Sarah was now a regal purple dinosaur with an elegant crest, while Susie had become a bright yellow dinosaur with a sturdy, powerful frame. They looked at their new forms, then at the vast jungle ahead. The girls were ready for a journey, unlike any they had ever known, a dinosaur road trip into the unknown. Imani led the way through the thick underbrush, her orange scales bright against the green ferns. As she walked, she felt the raw power of her new body. "We're really doing this," she rumbled, her voice a deep, resonant vibration that shook the leaves. Elena trotted beside her, her red tail swishing with excitement. The adventure was truly beginning. As Imani pushed through the mist, she saw flickering images of her past. She saw a memory of herself as a younger girl sitting with a kind man in a yellow shirt, much like the one in file 519.jpg, 414W-2X.jpg. Then, another image appeared of a princess teacher in a green dress, just like in file 520.jpg, 414W-2X.jpg. The memories were like stars in the prehistoric fog. "Look, it's a path," Elena chirped, her red tail swishing. They found a trail that looked like a dinosaur highway. Along the way, they passed strange sights, including a giant silver van hidden in the brush, reminiscent of file 521.jpg, 414W-2x.jpg, and a sunny clearing that looked like a prehistoric beach, similar to file 522.jpg, 414W-2x.jpg. Maybe the others are this way. Imani stopped to look at her reflection in a pool of water. She saw her dinosaur face, but in her mind, she remembered a photo of her sister, much like file 523.jpg 414W-2x.jpg. She also remembered her dad brushing her hair in their kitchen, a scene just like file 524.jpg 414W-2x.jpg. She realized that even as a dinosaur, her family's love stayed with her. The girls decided to have some fun. They spotted a grumpy-looking triceratops and decided to pull a classic prank. Susie, the yellow dinosaur, distracted him with a silly dance, while Sarah, the purple dinosaur, snuck up behind with a giant leaf. It was a scene full of prehistoric mischief, much like file 525.jpg 414W-2x.jpg, or file 526.jpg 414W-2x.jpg. Their adventure took them through mountain passes. Elena joked that they needed a doctor for their sore feet, recalling a hospital scene like file 527.jpg 414W-2x.jpg. Imani even thought she saw a man in a red suit with a white beard hiding in a cave, looking exactly like Tom _McGrath _ Santa _Claus _ by _E7 IFHE _DL15 VEZ 414W-2x.jpg. Is that Santa? Elena giggled, her dinosaur voice echoing. As the sun began to set, the jungle took on a magical glow. The girls found a soft patch of moss near a bubbling hot spring. Sarah and Susie curled up together, their dinosaur scales reflecting the fading light. "This is the best road trip ever," Susie rumbled, her yellow tail twitching contentedly in her sleep as she drifted off into dino dreams. Imani and Elena stayed awake a little longer, watching the stars come out. They were huge and bright, untainted by the lights of any city. "Do you think we'll ever go back?" Elena asked quietly. Imani looked at her friend and nudged her with a gentle orange snout. "Maybe, but for now, we have a whole world to explore together." The prankster dinosaurs stood together on a cliff overlooking the vast prehistoric horizon. They were a team of explorers and friends, ready for whatever the Mesozoic era had in store. As a distant volcano puffed a cloud of smoke into the purple sky, Imani let out a roar of pure joy. The journey was only just beginning.
The end.